Good morning, everyone. Hurricane Florence was uninvited, but she's just about here anyway. The bands of this massive storm will soon be lashing our coast. Heavy rains began this morning in the southeastern part of the state and will spread across North Carolina for days. Tropical storm force winds capable of destroying buildings are arriving on our coast, and we can expect hurricane force winds there Friday. My message today: don't relax. Don't get complacent. Stay on guard. This is a powerful storm that can kill. Today, the threat becomes a reality. Get yourself to a safe place and stay there if you haven't already. Over the next few hours, many roads will become unsafe and impassable from debris and flood waters. Don't drive during the peak of the storm, and don't attempt to drive through flooded roads. That puts your life in danger. I know many North Carolinians see updated storm tracks, changing categories of the hurricane, and landfall predictions. I'm concerned because I've even heard some people say that North Carolina is getting a break. Please hear my message. We cannot underestimate this storm. Wind speeds may have dropped some from yesterday, but we've traded that for a larger wind field that expands 200 miles with tropical storm force winds. And our greatest concern about this storm remains the same: storm surge and massive flooding. Both are going to be extreme. Catastrophic effects will be felt outside the center of the storm due to storm surge as high as 9 to 13 feet. That's the second story of a house. Battering winds and relentless rain that'll last for days. Make no mistake, whether the eye of the storm makes landfall along our shores or further south, we're on the wrong side of this thing. This storm will bring destruction to North Carolina. And remember that Hurricane Matthew didn't even make landfall in North Carolina, and look what it did to us. Floodplain experts at North Carolina Emergency Management know that from storm surge alone, tens of thousands of structures are expected to be flooded, and many more by rising rivers and creeks. If local officials tell you to seek higher ground, please listen. These orders are not given lightly. They are based on experienced emergency response experts who can predict dangerous and life-threatening situations. As of now, we have about 108 shelters that are open, with more than 7,000 people in them. Emergency management's goal is to set up even more shelters where people can stay safe throughout the duration of the storm and even after. We appreciate local communities stepping up to host storm evacuees, and we're grateful to the volunteers for helping us out at these shelters. I've ordered 2,800 National Guard soldiers to report for duty to help in this time of crisis, and we are truly grateful for their service. And we also want to thank their families and the families of all of the first responders who are making sacrifices with their loved ones who are serving with this natural disaster. Across our state, we have more than 56 school districts that are now closed, and nearly all of the University of North Carolina school system classes have been canceled. Everyone needs to be prepared for power outages that could last for days and maybe even a week or longer. Duke Energy and our electric co-ops are estimating power losses in the millions, and families need to have their emergency supplies ready. I know I've said this a lot, but it bears repeating. Your supplies should include water, food, flashlights, batteries, medicines, important documents that you may need to take with you if you have to evacuate quickly. And you need a plan for your pets. And please remember, if you do lose power, don't operate gas-powered generators inside your home or in a garage, crawl space, or shed. This can be deadly. Stay away from loose or dangling power lines that may be knocked over during the storm. And no matter where you live, don't drive through roads covered by standing or moving water. The road that was there before the flood waters may no longer be there. If you encounter a flooded road, turn around. Most storm-related deaths are caused by drowning in fresh water. Heavy rains can cause swells in small creeks and can turn streams into raging torrents that will sweep away anything in their path, including cars. It only takes a few inches of water to cause devastation in a flood. North Carolina needs to stay alert and continue to take this storm seriously. You can download the Ready NC app or follow North Carolina Emergency Management on Facebook and Twitter. There you can get updates or learn how you can weather the storm. I want to thank everyone across our state who's working to get us ready for this storm. And I want to introduce to you part of our team that is leading those efforts. We have Mike Sprayberry there at the end, who is our Director of Emergency Management, Dr. Mandy Cohen, who is the Secretary of Health and Human Services, Colonel Glenn McNeil, who is the Commander of the North Carolina Highway Patrol. We have General Jim Trogdon, who is our Secretary of the Department of Transportation. We have Albie Lewis, who is with FEMA with us today, and also Gracia Check, who is with FEMA. We are grateful for our FEMA partners who are embedded with us here and helping across the state. And we have Major General Gregory Lusk, who is the commander of our North Carolina Highway Patrol. We'll start by hearing from Mike Sprayberry. Mike?
Thank you, Governor. Good morning, everyone. We continue to urge our residents and visitors to heed the evacuation orders as received by the governor in your local jurisdictions. The State Emergency Response Team continues to add resources and fill resource requests. There's over 20 search and rescue task forces already on standby to respond once the storm passes. The North Carolina National Guard is providing high water clearance vehicles to assist in the search and rescue operation as well. We continue to move additional ambulances, aviation assets, generators, and commodities into different staging areas to assist in the response. A primary focus for us remains on sheltering. Our team is working with several municipalities to identify additional mega shelters, and we are currently working with all of our local jurisdictions to ensure that the shelters have adequate food, water, and cots. And I just want to echo what the governor said. We really appreciate all of our partners working with us at the federal and local level to ensure that the safety of the public during this event is of paramount importance, and we are committed to working with them every step of the way. Thank you, Governor.
We'll now hear from our Secretary of Health and Human Services, Dr. Mandy Cohen.
Thank you, Governor. Good morning. Just to reiterate the 3 key health and safety messages we want to make sure everyone is hearing. First, be prepared. Make sure you have your food, your water, your safety kit, and importantly, your medications, and be ready for the storm. Second, you're going to keep hearing this from us. Please do not drive through standing water. It was one of the leading causes of death during Hurricane Matthew, and we do not want to see loss of life. Do not drive through standing water. And then third, please do not use gas-powered generators inside your home due to risk of carbon monoxide poisoning. So Be prepared with your food, water, and medication. Do not drive through standing water, and please do not run gas-powered generators. We are doing all we can on our side to get ready, to prepare, to open medical shelters. We're also invoking as much flexibility that the federal government is allowing us through our Medicaid program to make sure that we have access and continuity to care. So we are doing our part. Please do yours. Be safe.
Our commander of the North Carolina Highway Patrol, Colonel Glenn McNeil.
Thank you, Governor. Good morning. The State Highway Patrol is working diligently with our state, county, and local partners to ensure that public safety remains our top priority. Troopers are stationed across the state, ready to respond at a moment's notice to the areas most impacted by the approaching storm. Motorists are encouraged to monitor the weather reports and use the utmost caution when finalizing their preparation needs. We're still in the evacuation process, and I will remind motorists to avoid leaving their vehicles unattended on our interstate corridors. Motorists are also encouraged to remove vehicles from travel lanes if you are involved in a collision without injury. As heavy rains are forecasted across our state, I cannot stress this enough: the dangers associated with driving during this storm. Roadways in low-flying areas prone to flooding will make travel treacherous. Please do not attempt to drive through road closures, roads that have been barricaded, or through standing water. Doing so will place your life and the life of first responders in harm's way. Downed trees, power lines, and other debris within the roadways are expected over the next several days. The safety of our citizens and our first responders remains our highest priorities, so plan ahead. Thank you.
We're glad to have Lee Williamson here helping us with American Sign Language interpretation. And the rest of our team here, General Trogdon, the Secretary of Transportation, nothing has changed since yesterday. The routes are all green and people are positioned, ready to go. General Lusk has his 2,800 troops positioned, National Guard troops, and those soldiers are ready to go at a moment's notice. And our FEMA partners are helping us assemble equipment and help for our people in need, and we're grateful for them being here and for their attention. So I'll take questions now for me or either for our team.
Good morning, Governor Beershell. I'm with CBS 17 here in Raleigh. Because we know with Hurricane Matthew we had such issues with people who did drive into those floodwaters, are there any precautions that either Highway Patrol or DOT are already taking with the resources to make sure we can try and prevent some of the deaths that we saw?
Well, first, we're continuing to get the word out about how deadly it can be for people to drive through standing water or moving water on a road. And I also know that both the Department of Transportation and the Highway Patrol will find out when roads are flooded and will try to close those roads as quickly as possible, working with local officials to make sure that people are prevented from driving on them. But this, the flash flooding watches that are all over our state right now, we've been told by the Weather Service that these flash floods could be swift and intense. So there won't be a whole lot of time lag there for the roads to be closed and for people to be warned. So we tell people not to drive during these storms at all, but certainly if you see water, stop and turn around. You guys have anything to add to that? Okay.
Hi, Governor. You mentioned that you have 2,800 National Guard soldiers that are already staging. Where are they staging, and what areas are of most concern right now?
I know we have most of them staged at west of I-95, and they're ready to spring into action where needed. But we also have some at our staging areas, and I'll let General Lusk speak to that if you will.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Governor Cooper's been steadfast since the beginning of this to challenge all of us to pre-position resources so that we are indeed ready to respond as quickly as possible once the storm impacts us and begins to lift. As a result of that, 2,800, you've heard that number already. 600, a little more than 600 of them are right now committed to missions in the eastern branch, the eastern side of North Carolina, if you will, supporting those counties basically east of I-95. The remainder will be in staging areas west of I-95, getting their equipment and everything ready so that they can indeed respond. It's important to also note that just combination between North Carolina, South Carolina, and Virginia, there's a total of 6,400 guardsmen that are on duty. So we're in constant contact and coordination with each other because in an event such as this, state boundaries don't matter when American lives are at risk. So we will be cooperating and helping each other out throughout the region. Thank you.
Yes, Lenny?
Okay, Lenny Sue Paul with Spectrum News in Raleigh. We have a lot of viewers asking about volunteer opportunities. Many people want to help. Where should they go or who should they call if they want to assist before, during, and after the storm?
We would rather they volunteer through the established nonprofits that are already there that we're working with. There's an organization called VOAD, which you can go to, which will provide list of opportunities for you. Mike, do you have anything you want to add to that?
And I would just ask you, to call 211 if you want to volunteer, and they can point folks in the right direction.
Having people call 211 too allows them to get a lot of information about local information that you may need to know and get questions asked.
Travis Spain with WRAL. How confident is your team at this point on track and rainfall totals, particularly in kind of the southeastern part of the state?
It's going to be a lot. we know that this storm is coming in, even if it tracks south some. We're on the bad side of this storm. The rainfall totals, we continue to hear from Katie Webster, our meteorologist, are devastating. And we know that we have some low-lying areas that are prone to flooding. These areas are in danger. And we think local governments are doing a pretty good job in informing people about where these areas are. We have provided that information. I was in Kinston yesterday. They had taken a lot of the information that emergency management had done on mapping and seeing what had happened in previous storms. And so they're able to go through now and say, this area is likely to be flooded, get to higher ground now. You got anything to add to that, Mike? Okay.
Governor Jeff Tiberi from WNC Radio. Do you have an update for us on the mega shelter in Winston-Salem? You said yesterday capacity 1,000. Do we have a sense of how many people who have evacuated are there? And also, are there any other mega shelters, Charlotte or Fayetteville or Asheville, that might be coming online today?
The mega shelter at the Lawrence Joel Veterans Memorial Coliseum in Winston-Salem is open. I know that we are working to establish other mega shelters that may be open by the end of the day, depending on numbers of evacuees. I don't know how many are there right now. Do you, Mike? I'll let you.
So the last that I was told was around 750, and so, but as I mentioned in previous press conferences, these numbers are not static, and so they could have increased, could have decreased. As far as other mega shelters, we actually have a two-man team that's out right now doing shelter surveys and working with local governments to find out whether they would be willing to offer up mega shelters. We think we're going to be successful with that. But before we open up, a big shelter like that, we want to make sure there's the need, and so. But we are working towards that end. That is a major operation that we have ongoing. Thank you, sir.
Governor Cooper, Alex Janney with Lace News. I was hoping you could speak to the coordination with FEMA, sort of what that communication looks like and whether you're getting the support you feel you need from the federal government at this point.
North Carolina traditionally has had an excellent relationship with FEMA. I've personally spoken to Brock Long, the administrator. Mike Sprayberry speaks with him frequently. We have our FEMA representatives here on the ground. Already equipment and material and supplies have come to staging areas ready to send out places that need it. So we feel very confident that we will have the support that we need. It has certainly been promised to us, and we're going to hold them to that.
Have you spoken to the president at all?
I have, and he said whatever we need. And I've also spoken with a number of cabinet secretaries and at the federal level, from Secretary Azar to Secretary Carson to Homeland Security Secretary Nielsen to Secretary Wilbur Ross, several others. But I've talked to a number of them personally to make sure we have that federal commitment that's going to be necessary to make sure that we get the job done. I know our congressional delegation has been very responsive, and also we have been keeping our state legislators up to date. They are often out there visiting with emergency management people. Some of them have come to the Emergency Operations Center here. So it's a real team effort here, and I think it's important that we continue that.
Governor Cooper, Sam DeGrave with the Asheville Citizen-Times. It's been a while since a hurricane caused problems with our hog waste lagoons in eastern North Carolina, but it's also been a while since we had a hurricane like Florence coming our way. Is there any concern that pollution from hog waste lagoons will be a problem as Florence begins to impact us here?
Yes, we are concerned about hog waste lagoons and other potential environmental hazards when we're talking about this much rain and when we're talking about significant river flooding. I know our Department of Environmental Quality is on the ready. I understand that the EPA is also here to help, and I do understand in talking to Commissioner Steve Troxler yesterday that a number of the hog lagoon ponds have been drawn down in the anticipation of this significant rain and potential flooding. So we'll certainly hope for the best with that situation. Yes.
Governor, Lydia again from Spectrum News in Raleigh. Many people still recovering from Hurricane Matthew 2 years ago. I know you've been visiting many of those communities. What do you have to say to them as this storm approaches?
Well, we hope that there isn't further damage for these communities that were already damaged in Matthew. We have over $750 million that has been distributed in these communities, roads, bridges, businesses, homes repaired. But recovery from a hurricane is a long-term effort, and there is still more work to do from Hurricane Matthew, and now we're going to have this work to recover from Hurricane Florence ahead of us as well. One of the things I talked to Secretary Carson about today was flexibility in dealing with these two situations that we have, making sure that the people of North Carolina get optimum recovery and back on their feet as quickly as possible. And we're going to continue to work every single day. Emergency management with the Community Development Block Grant Disaster Relief Funds, they're still working today on Matthew issues, while the rest of emergency management is dealing with Florence. So we're going to continue that effort. I talk to Mike about both of them most every day.
Governor, again, Beershell with CBS 17 News. I know you mentioned about 1 million or so outages with Duke Energy. I'm not sure if anyone up there could speak to the specifics here of where and what regions are really going to get the brunt of those outages.
There is a map of that where they anticipate the numbers of outages, but I don't know if you've got anything specific on that, Mike.
We just.
Come on.
Yes. So, you know, they're anticipating, of course, eastern North Carolina, but with the winds going throughout central North Carolina as well, I would encourage everybody to be prepared, you know, because as you can see through the track of the storm, it could very easily come in on the east, come back up through the central part of the state, and end up in the west. So all of us need to be aware that we could be without power for days, if not weeks, in some portions. Of course, we think the hardest hit portions will be in southeastern North Carolina. But I will tell you that the electric co-ops, Duke, Progress, they are prepared, they're staged and prepared to surge in as quickly as possible to restore power. And we're working with them very closely. They're here in the state EOC with us so that we can track that very closely once those power outages begin. Thank you.
Director Sprayberry? Sorry. You had mentioned yesterday dam monitoring. I don't know that the models have shifted that much, but if you could just update on that. I think you expressed some confidence yesterday that we're not going to have issues there.
You know, so you've seen the forecast like I have where you're looking at over 30 inches of rain in some places. There's a lot more dams in North Carolina than what people think. So we are watching our high hazard dams. And to that end, we have our Department of Environmental Quality Dam Safety Team here in the EOC with us. We've also got reach back to our FEMA dam experts. And so we are watching those very carefully. As the governor was talking about hog lagoons, we watch high hazard dams and anything like that we consider to be that could be a threat, and we're watching it very closely.
Back to the power outages, I did have a conversation with Duke Energy CEO Lynn Good, and she assured me that they had teams from all over the country on ready here, and I know our co-ops are here with us, that they're going to be ready to step up as well to get power back to people as quickly as possible. But we know the damage will likely be widespread, so it may take a little while. Any other questions? Okay, we will see you at 5 o'clock. Is that right, guys? 5 o'clock. Thank you.